My name is Richard Van Wickler. I'm the superintendent of the Cheshire County Department of Corrections, and we're located in Keene, New Hampshire. You know, when I first got into corrections, it was a situation where I was a young man with a young family. I needed a job, and that was in 1987. And when I came into corrections, I learned very quickly that this was a business that was very intimidating. It was very frightening. There were people that started as correctional officers. They punched in, but they never punched out. They asked to go use the restroom and get on their car and left. There weren't many standards back then in New Hampshire. Training was pretty much non-existent. And I was a correctional officer for 14 months. And in that 14 months, the thing that I liked about the job is that I didn't have to go and pretend to be in a good mood like a salesperson. You could pretty much be whoever you wanted, and it really didn't matter. But the thing that was most peculiar to me, aside from the physical violence and aggressive behaviors that I was encountering, was one particular story where a guy came in one day who had been wanted for murdering his girlfriend's children. I think they were 9 and 12 years old. And I was in charge of booking that particular night. And as I was rolling his fingerprints, I was thinking where these fingers had been and what they had done. He had strangled these 2 girls and put them in bed and set the house on fire. I began to shake as I was fingerprinting him, locked him into a cell, and I went outside and lit a cigarette and said, when I finish the cigarette, I'm either going to go upstairs and punch out, or I'm going to finish processing him professionally because I understand that's my job. And when I finished that cigarette, I lit another cigarette, finished that one, and I went in and I finished processing him. But I learned at that moment that I had to separate fact from emotion, that this was a kind of thing that was a very difficult job. And somebody had to do this job, and they had to do it professionally. And as much as I strained with it, I knew that this person had some constitutional protections that I was supposed to be the guardian of, as difficult as that was. Within a week, another person came in, and he was a carpenter. He had no prior criminal history whatsoever, and he was scared to death. And he was brought to jail because he had almost an ounce of marijuana on him. He was pulled over for a traffic stop. One thing led to another, and the police officer arrested him for possession. And I think because of the amount, it might have been possession with intent to distribute, I'm not sure. But what struck me was the dichotomy of the one person having murdered 2 young girls and set the house on fire, and the danger that that person was to society. Now in the very same room, coming into the very same jail in the very same way, was a nonviolent person with no priors who was probably looking at a substantial amount of time in jail. So that was my introduction to it, coming into the correctional business, and those 2 stories stayed with me a long time.